the fact is this: the transfer window, it is a mess. But Michel Platini, if you're going to come out and say it's robbery, I've got one question for you, and one question only. What can do about it? Hey, we can do about it. Platini, we can do about it. You're next in line at FIFA, so you're in a perfect position to do something about it. But for me, the fact is, the transfer spending is absolutely, it's farcical. It's farcical, and I somewhat sympathise with Ian Holloway in terms of everyone having to do their business at the same time. I understand that point. Because obviously for the promoted clubs, especially if you're getting promoted via the playoffs, you've got a couple of weeks, you've got a few weeks less than those who've been promoted automatically. But in a way, what I say to that is tough titty, said the kitty. Because you got to live with it. If you weren't good enough to get automatic promotion, you go into the playoffs. That's just the way that it is. It was one of them was, or in the words of Sid Vicious, some mama says it bees that way sometimes. But the spending is absolutely stupid. And you know what? The transfer window should close before the season starts. Because I'm not a fan of players shifting clubs when, say, you're 2-3 weeks into the season by the time the window closes, and then your best player's leaving, or he's handed in a transfer request very late in the transfer window and it's a bolt out of the blue and you didn't know he was leaving, then that screws you up. Or if you've got clubs trying to play brinksmanship with you, where you say, right, the valuation is 50 million or whatever, and then that club plays brinksmanship until the final day, then that player's already unsettled. Then that could potentially affect that player's season. So, the transfer window, I think, either the transfer window needs to be throughout the whole season, or it needs to open at the end of it needs to open at the end of the season and finish before the season starts. So that open the window after the Champions League final, so that the season is done, and then end it before the next season begins. Although that could be kind of a minefield because certain seasons start at different times, so it would have to be kind of uniform. Whereby if you were going to say, right, transfer window in England is going to end, is going to end, say, August 17th. Right, midnight, August 16th, it ends, and it starts on May 27th, let's say, after the Champions League final. Get your business done there. Scrap the January window, because things are even more stupid in the January window, and say, right, you've got a couple months to do your business. Do your business. If you don't get it done, you don't get it done. That's your own fault. I think that might be the only way. But then with that, the English transfer window, you'd have to say, because the Championship obviously starts a couple of weeks before, and the Football League starts a couple of weeks before, you'd have to be like, right, Premier League clubs can do their business up to this point and whatever. I think that would be the only thing, and get those leagues starting at the same time. I think.
Well, you know what? Just thinking about the whole situation and, listening to Platini, personally, I think his gripe is because basically UEFA ain't making nothing out of it. Because you got people that are basically agents who really and truthfully have, their ties to the game in terms of footballers, apart from just going from one club to another club and making deals, brokering deals. They're not actually really involved in what those players literally are doing on the pitch. They're making a lot of money off the back of the players, which the clubs basically build these players. And the governing bodies put these players on platforms in which the world can see them. So, and then you've got these middlemen that just, you or I could just pop up. Next minute, we could have a field of fledgling little players around us and be trying to broker deals all around the place, saying, It's messy. I don't really understand it fully to its thing. So I think he's got a bit of gripe with that. I don't think there can be much of a change.
Something has to change, though.
I think that, but in terms of the windows, I think they could get a bit more rigid with the windows. I personally think they could actually say, you know, like you said, after the Champions League match, that's when you buy players. Before your league starts, that's when you stop buying players.
Yeah.
You know, and that could happen to every league around the world. Who cares if they overlap? If the Italian league started and they're not selling no more players, you can't buy no more Italian players.
Yeah.
Simple as. Yeah. If the English league started and just say Real Madrid wanted to buy an English player, it's either you can't buy no players.
You buy that player. Their window's closed. You
buy that player earlier, or you don't.
Yeah.
You get me?
Yeah.
So that's the way I see it personally. Yeah. Or you get that deal struck, you know, underneath the tables, like between the two clubs during the season, and that deal goes through then. But then again, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You'll get clubs maneuvering for players in shady ways. It's just such a minefield. Like, there's too much money getting flung around for there to actually be changed. For instance, you look at Holloway. I swear he didn't use an agent at all for none of his signings this season. Don't think so. I think that's genius. You know?
But that's how it used to be in the old days before the agents.
Not using agent fees.
Yeah, it used to be the manager. Right? Do you want that player? No, I'm all right. And they'll go out and scout stuff.
So I think that's genius. It's either him or Steve Bruce, one of them. But I just think that's genius. You know, because I think the agent,
eliminate the middleman trying to.
Personally, I think they're getting paid a lot of money for doing what?
Well, it's brokering deals and getting as much as possible. So it's one of them was if a deal was at 15 million, obviously an agent's going to try and get 20 just so that they can cream off the top.
Yeah, so he's just getting paid. That's all it is.
Middleman, yeah.
Like, you know. But anyway, I think this is one to throw out to all the rest of them. So, Mike Harniman, did you want to jump in? I know Tom Wood.
What you were saying, Liam, how it works over here at Stevenage, we've had Leon Hunter, who's the scout, and he'll be the one that basically will tell Wesley whether he spotted a player, and then Wesley will make a decision on whether he likes that player or not. Really. So it's like what you were saying, and Jay was saying it's happened at Hartlepool and a few other teams as well.
It's one of them ones. Also Tom Wood, you wanted to jump in as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I was going to say I reckon clubs should have a specific transfer budget, and they've got to stick to it, and they can only spend that certain amount of money on one lot and on the players that they want. But I reckon they should only be able to buy players from the country they're actually based in.
But then, that's very hard. That's all very hard to regulate. Buying players only from the country that you're in, that you're based in. That's impossible to regulate. And also, it kind of does contravene. I think it was something like European law or something, employment law or something like that, with kind of free trade and being able to go where you want and earn what you want. But I think it's a case of. I think it's a case of that with. I don't know. With the window as it is, and I can see what Tom Wood was saying. It almost sounds like financial fair play. You get a strict financial budget, and then you stick within that. But teams don't. And the thing is, and Platini once again has come out recently and said, "Oh yeah, kicking teams out of tournaments is the last thing we're looking to do." And it's like, stop showing your hand to these teams. These teams already know you ain't gonna do much if they don't comply with financial fair play, and you're making it worse by keep on coming out and reinforcing it. This is the worst thing when you got the powers that be looking like they don't give a damn. Then why are clubs gonna give a damn? If you know that you're not gonna, that you can basically whiz all over the rules and not get kicked out of the Champions League, you're going to keep whizzing all over the rules like you're doing now. Because you know the reprimand they're going to give you is pocket change.
But you know what? I actually think they've got themselves into such a situation where they can't afford to do certain reprimands because they know there's so much money in the game. These people can potentially go elsewhere. You know, it's one of those factors where, you know, you have got billionaires coming in now, you know, taking over some of the smallest clubs, you know, and investing. You know, these people are not afraid to shine their money about no more. You know, kicking big clubs out of competitions, you know, could, you know, turn a lot of noses. And I think they're just scared. They're just scared of those repercussions. Who knows what sort of threats are going on behind doors that you kick us out and watch what we could potentially do. Yeah. You know, so...
Well, we've always heard rumours of like breakaway leagues or anything or stuff like that. Don't think it'd ever work, but it's one of them ones where there's just some really, I don't know, man. I mean, the way the transfer fees are skyrocketing, and there was someone who writes for the Evening Standard, not writes for the Evening Standard, I think it was some financial expert, it might have been from Deloitte actually, who said, we're very close to £100 million player. Yeah, no crap, Sherlock. We could have told you that 5 years ago that we were close to that. It doesn't take a genius to figure that out, that's going to happen soon. But it's just, man, I mean, it's frustrating because it seems like the powers that be are doing nothing about it. Platini can come out and moan all he wants, but ain't heard anything from Scudamore, who's in charge of Premier League. Ain't heard nothing from him. Ain't heard word one from him. We're looking to keep clubs alive. We're not looking to get rid of clubs for financial irregularities. It's, oh my God. So what have you been studying at the media school of Platini? What are you doing?
Well, you know,
giving the game away.
You know what? LaRock Show has an interesting point here on Twitter. He says personally,
what else have we got?
He said personally wouldn't have a window and scrap agents. Method in madness.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Agents are essentially highly paid middlemen, which is not good. Because look at guys like Kia Jarabchian, or as I've called him, or as my personal opinion of him, a money grabbing whore of an agent. That would be my personal opinion, not the view of Pitch Talk, obviously. But it's absolutely crazy. Mike Harniman's brought it. Mike Harniman, do you want to ask that question that you put in the Skype chat earlier?
Yeah, basically, it's going back to sort of more the lower leagues and that again. And like, if you look at League One, we've got teams like Wolves, and then we've also got like the likes of Stevenage and that in there as well, in like the Coventries and whatever. What about the teams that have been relegated, like back-to-back relegations, like Wolves, who have been relegated from the Premiership, then the Championship, and they're getting all these parachute payments, and then they're trying to compete with the sort of lesser teams for the same players. Actually, how would you go about that? How would you sort of go around it?
See, that's a difficult one, because parachute payments, in a way, similar to Chelsea dropping into Europa League last season, you're getting rewarded for failure. And the parachute payments thing, I think, yeah, that's a great point, because considering Wolves are still living off Premier League parachute payments, that when it comes, they can blow anyone out of the water in League One when it comes to financial clout. Technically, that's actually unfair, and I think there should be, in that case, there should be some sort of upper limit as to what you can spend, which should bring you in line with the other sides, because that's unfair. That say, because Wolves have been relegated twice, and because they've been relegated twice, and they've got the parachute payments from the Premier League, which are like 50 million or something along those lines, and no one else in that league is going to be able to compete with that. That's actually unfair. That's like Wolves in the Premier League were Wolves in the Premier League were essentially a tadpole in the ocean, and now in League One they're a big fish in a very small pond. They're like a shark. They're like a shark in a kiddie pool. It's one of them ones. It's it's not a level playing field. So it's quite a hard one, because the parachute payments thing one is quite a difficult one to negotiate, because if you get relegated from the Premiership and then you fall down again, well, it's kind of, you can't really legislate for that. So I think the only way you could potentially legislate for that is just putting an upper ceiling on what that particular team who are living off Premiership parachute payments, you got to limit what that particular team can spend whilst they're in that league and make it equal with the other teams. I think that'd be the only thing you can do. But then in a way, again, it's kind of limiting fair trade. In the loosest sense of the word, fair trade. So it's one of them ones. I mean, Gman, do you want to jump in on that as well?
But basically, I disagree with the way in which you describe it. Basically, at the end of the day, is either there should be a cap for all teams, or there shouldn't be a cap. You get me? Yeah. At the end of the day, a club is rewarded for going up into the league, and in terms of when they get relegated, that money is there to protect them from, in the same way, falling down in that sort of crash straight down to the bottom, dropping out through all the leagues. That money is meant to be there to actually, help balance them. Because
the clubs should be balancing their own books. This is the problem.
Because at the end of the day, when you look at it, potentially, just look, that could be a bigger club, that could be a smaller club, that could be a club that invested a lot on players, like a QPR, gave them high wages, drops down, can't get rid of none of those. That money's there covering those players. It's not always as simple as
that's their own fault, though, especially with something like Portsmouth, whereby they spent way outside their budget, and they were getting passed around. They were getting passed around more than chlamydia at a teenage party in terms of ownership, and the bills just kept piling up. You can't run.
It may be, but
parachute payments, as said, are rewarding you for failure. But also the parachute payments, if a club, say, spends outside of its means, like a Portsmouth, the parachute payments is almost indirectly rewarding them for running outside of their means, because they drop into a lower league, and these parachute payments are keeping them above everyone else.
Well,
in theory,
technically, in theory, yeah, but not. In theory, yeah, but practically, not always. That's not always the case.
Yeah, but that was Portsmouth's own fault, though.
Again,
look at West Brom when they were the boing baggies.
Yeah,
they kept themselves nice and on an even keel, because they were being smart. They weren't breaking transfer records of every time they were going up. But they were spending very carefully.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Pompey was stupid.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. The team wasn't good enough for the Premiership. It was better than the leagues below. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but Portsmouth spent way outside their means when they were in the Premier League. And then the parachute payments helped them, but they had been so stupid and profligate with their spending, that they had dug themselves a hole that they couldn't get out.
But that's just the mismanagement of one team. You get me? There's a lot of teams that are mismanaging. There's a lot of teams that are mismanaging. There's a lot of teams that are mismanaging themselves and ain't even getting relegated. Or do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but eventually the crap will hit the fan.
Do you get what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, case by case scenario, like at the end of the day, the parachute payments are there for one reason. It's not there. It's not obligated to help any and every team, or make teams, make use of the money. It's there for teams that get relegated, to give them some sort of financial backing, just to make sure that they don't, just fall.
What? All the way?
It's gone. It's totally gone. Audio's gone.
I can hear you.
Oh, headphones gone. But falling all the way down.
But I mean, it's one of them ones where where at the end of the day, I just see it as, if I just think clubs need to manage themselves better, and if they know they're going to get millions of pounds from dropping down, they may take that dropping down and just be like, you know what, the parachute payments, we've got the insurance of the parachute payments, and we're going to be good because of that.
Wolves having a parachute money, stop paying it. Just stop paying it altogether. And then you'll see how much everybody will have to work out what they need to do in terms of still having a club. Because it's the same thing at QPR. QPR are now starting to become a family club, and I'm hoping that I can grow with them. If not, then I'll grow with Fulham. Fulham's always been a family club, and I'm happy with the signings that they've made. They made their signings early, clear and precise, and I don't see why we have to go and find players on the continent who they'll probably just complain about the weather, complain about this and that, but then they go back to their own country and they're like, oh, I'd love to play in the Premiership. Or you can find players over here that are just young enough to learn from the players that already have those 5-year contracts, like Gerrard, like Lampard, like Rooney, and we'll just say, you know what, I don't have to worry too much about the big players, because I know when I get to time, it will be, I'm not going to be a big competition. I'm going to have a competition for somebody who's younger than me when I get to that point.
So you think players should be seeing out their contracts?
Seeing out the contracts, and then find players that are actually within the squads themselves.
So what about the window though? Do you think the window needs? Do you think the transfer window needs changing, or it needs to be abolished or moved around though? That's the thing. What do you reckon there?
All right, I'll see what everybody was saying, but for me, I would say this goes back to the point of what most people are saying. England don't have any players just to really. I don't think it really needs to be moved around. I just think in general, if Arsenal were to buy a player from maybe Coventry City, that would help the club so much. Or if Arsenal anybody was to buy a player from Manchester United, went to Crewe and bought a player for $1 million, that would help the club so much, rather than, oh, we have to do this and we have to do that. No, you don't have to. Once the player has that chance of playing at a higher club, at least he's gone from England, he's gone from Crewe to Manchester, or from Coventry to London, and he's still made that big jump anyway. The only difference is that he's just got to prove himself at a higher level, which most clubs do, and which most clubs actually have a chance to do anyway. Ozil doesn't need to be at Arsenal. Cazorla doesn't need to be at Arsenal. They're only there because they need to find a way just to break into the either the Spanish or German team. That's what it comes down to.
I'm thinking you could have a transfer window in pre-season, sort of leading up to the season. Then you're gonna have your squad anyway. You register your squad, who's your 25-man squad or whatever it is, and then you've got the loans anyway. You've got emergency loans. You've got the frees that you can use. So I'd have the transfer window at the end of people's contracts, when the contracts are running out, like the end of June, beginning of July, and then use the time from then until the season starts to be buying the players, and then basically once you've actually registered your squad, that's your squad. But like the only thing you can do is get frees, or you can get emergency loans if need be.
No, I heard that. No. I kind of do agree with that actually.